The murders on August 9th and 10th were followed by unsavory reports in the press. The Cielo Drive residents were allegedly involved in drugs, pornography, and even satanic practices. The LaBiancas to have connections to the mob. It was rumored that Lino's bookie, Frank Carbo, fled the state after the murders. Again, Carbo was also a known affiliate of the Straight Satans, and according to Lynette Frome, Charlie served time with the gangster. In her memoir, she claimed that Manson told her, "One of my prison dads was from Baltimore, Frankie Carbo. He used to run booze in the 1920s with the Rocco brothers from Philly. He was a grand old con man, and I didn't miss a thought from him." Manson later dropped hints about Lino's Little Black Book to create an air of doubt around his guilt in the LaBianca's murders. But if Carbo ordered Manson to take out Lino, Manson would have driven straight to the residence that night. Instead, he drove around for 3 or 4 hours before making his way to Los Feliz and the Waverly Drive home. He surveilled numerous other properties and individuals before meandering his way toward the LaBianca neighborhood, which he had visited before for completely different reasons. This theory, therefore, doesn't pass the sniff test. During the investigation at Cielo, Charlene McCaffrey, girlfriend of Joel Rostow and employee of Jay Sebring, told police that Rostow delivered cocaine and mescaline to Sebring and Frykowski the afternoon before they were killed. She didn't mention the armed robbery and drug bust in which she and Rostow were arrested the previous April, but she claimed that her boyfriend delivered drugs on the afternoon of August 8th with the intention to deliver more later that night. Her claims placed Rostow potentially at the scene of the crime, so the LAPD put Rostow on 24-hour surveillance. After weeks of harassment, Joel went into hiding. Finally, on the advice of his attorney, he agreed to talk to the LAPD as long as they only discussed the murders, not his own criminal activities. During his interrogation, he admitted that he made up the story about being at Cielo Drive to Charlene. He also passed a polygraph test. But there are people who still think that Rostow and his syndicate-connected superiors were involved or even present at Cielo Drive. It's one of the most challenging factors of this crime story. There are a lot of weird loose threads that made these cases confusing from the get-go, and that still lend an air of suspicion all these years later. There were certainly circumstances that the police seemed to have overlooked. Theories abound that the police wanted to implicate the counterculture, particularly in the Benedict Canyon cases. In recent years, numerous conspiracy theories have cropped up on the internet, including claims that it wasn't Charlie who orchestrated the murders, but Linda Kasabian. Investigators also checked out the connection between Frykowski and Billy Doyle. The story again was that Doyle gave both Frykowski and Sebring bad dope, and they showed up at the home of Cass Elliott, where Pick Dawson and Doyle were staying on August 5th or 6th. Cass was having a party honoring Roger Vadim, and Wojtek and Jay crashed the party. They allegedly tied Doyle to a tree, and with onlookers watching, anally raped him. The message? Don't fuck with us. This scenario was told to investigators by actor Dennis Hopper, who was living with Michelle Phillips at the time. Hopper even claimed that the assault had been video recorded. But was any of this actually true? Doyle was dealing MDMA and marijuana, using a fleet of private jets from Jamaica. He got Pick Dawson and Tom Harrigan involved, who recommended Frykowski as their man in LA. The three gave Wojtek a taste of MDMA and thought he'd be a good conduit to the Hollywood scene. Frykowski also introduced these men to Jay, but Sebring had a bad experience with Doyle. In the days before his death, Sebring had complained to a receptionist at his hair shop that someone had burned him for $2,000 worth of cocaine, and he wanted vengeance. This is allegedly the inciting incident that resulted in Doyle's buggering. Sebring was depleting his financial coffers that summer as he spiraled further into drug dependency. The press got wind of his money troubles and his sexual issues. Investigators also found numerous films of Roman having sex in the Cielo home, only some of which included Sharon. All of these discoveries created a logjam of theories and suspects to weed through in the weeks after the killings. Sergeant McCann explained, "In our first report, which I wrote over Labor Day weekend, I proposed several theories. One had a group going to the Cielo house to rob the occupants of drugs. They didn't intend to kill them, but they were seen either entering or leaving the residence by Stephen Parent. They killed him, then they had to kill the others. Another theory was that a dope deal went bad and a fight ensued. My report went to the chief of detectives, the chief of police, and my captain. On Tuesday, we all got together and determined we had to eliminate each of these theories. We told my boss that we needed to go to Jamaica. The Pan Am pilot spent a lot of time there. So we flew to Kingston where we eliminated the pilot. We were back at square one. Lino LaBianca was a heavy gambler. Initially, detectives explored the possibility that loan sharks had ordered the murders. Then they looked into LaBianca's brief service on the board of a bank allegedly backed by mob money. They got nowhere. But they noted in one report, investigation revealed that the singing group The Beatles' most recent album has songs titled Helter Skelter and Piggies and Blackbird. The words in the song Blackbird frequently say, "Arise, arise," which might be the meaning of rise near the front door. Time magazine ran a story August 22nd that read, "Theories of sex, drugs, and witchcraft cults spread quickly in Hollywood, fed by the fact that Sharon and Polanski circulated in one of the film world's more offbeat crowds. Polanski, who was in London at the time of the murders, is noted for his macabre movies." They also erroneously wrote, "Sharon's body was found nude. Sebring had been sexually mutilated. Frykowski's trousers were down around his ankles." Hardest for Sharon's family to stomach were the innuendos of satanic rituals, as though the starlet's brief research for a film project years before caused the savage way that she and her friends' lives ended. Even the rumor of a party the night of her death upset them. They knew that Sharon was focused on the birth of her coming child, not on dark rituals or extravagant parties. Polanski later insisted to the UPI, in an article that went to newspapers around the world, "There was no indication of a party that evening. There wasn't any party that evening." Roman returned to the States on August 11th. At a news conference in Los Angeles, he recounted his last conversation with his wife. On the verge of tears, Roman decried the media for their salacious and inaccurate reporting of his murdered wife. "You are suddenly curious about my relationship with Sharon. I can tell you the last few years I spent with her were the only time of true happiness in my life. In fact, which will be coming out day after day, will make a shame. A lot of newsmen who, for selfish reasons, write unbearable, for me horrible things. Sharon not only didn't use drugs, she didn't touch alcohol, she didn't even smoke cigarettes." Polanski scolded. "All of you know how beautiful she was. She was one of the most beautiful women, if not the most beautiful woman in the world. But few of you know how good she was. She was vulnerable. She couldn't refuse any friendship." The press conference was held in a banquet hall at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, where Polanski was staying. But he did tour his home in Benedict Canyon that week. A photojournalist from Life magazine accompanying the director for the added salaciousness of showing the world a man broken, surrounded by the blood and gore of his loved ones.